Well, we can. I think we can get going. I've got 20 people so far, and a few will join us along the way. And I'm very pleased to introduce. I guess Stanley, I'll call you my internet friend. We've never met, but we have. Hey, do you want to? No. I keep getting. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? But we never met. But I've known you for a long time. We've done some things together, and you presented to us several times, and I always look forward to it because I have an interest in the Christmas seals, and so we thank you for coming. Dr. Stanley Jones is a James Cudworth Professor of Aerospace Engineering and Mechanics at the University of Alabama. For a couple of years earlier in his career, he was a visiting professor at the United States Air Force Academy, but he's been at Alabama since 1987. He's had other academic appointments, but he's known for numerous conference papers over the years. A lot of what academics do, written several textbooks, refereed journal articles and reviewed them and written them, done abstracts reviews, all since the 1960s. The one I like is called a nonlinear partial differential equations for everyone. I don't know if that means me, but we'll give that a try. And he started collecting, as a youngster, and as he grew, the glass ceiling kind of got to them, and like so many of us, we get priced out of the market. So we went into the revenues, and again, moved on, sold those, got into pre-canceled battleships, and enjoyed those, but priced out again. And you're still doing some research with those, Stanley, and always amazed at the
Definitely.
stuff you find. It's amazing, but
When you can find them, I've got them.
yeah. Well, he found Christmas seals and really enjoyed them both United States and worldwide, and found them undervalued. And he said they have all advantages of stamps and covers. There's different countries. There's production issues, errors, fakes, and oddities, politics, and some great stories. And there's the seals themselves and the postal history over the last 50 years. And tonight he's going to show us about the Lutheran seals. And many think all there are Christmas seals, but there are a lot of other tubercular seals that come out at Christmas time, and the Lutheran seals are one of them. So with that, Stanley, I will turn it to you. And folks, please join me in welcoming Dr. Stanley Jones with us tonight. And we're ready to go to start flipping the slides when you're ready. And do you want
Okay.
questions during or after?
Oh, they can ask them anytime.
Anytime?
I'm
Okay.
a college professor. I'm used to interruptions. Well, thank you very much, Paul, for that generous introduction. I have my wife with me here. She's going to oversee this and critique it afterwards. Uh, so I guess I can uh, move these myself, right?
Yep.
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 Okay. This is the title is Lutheran Charity Seal Collecting, but we're only going to look at two Lutheran charities: Lutheran Sanitarium, Wheat Ridge, Colorado, and Grace Lutheran Sanatorium. Sanitarium and sanatorium are interchangeable, so it doesn't matter. But one is a sanitarium, the other is a sanatorium, and that one is in Grace Lutheran is in San Antonio, Texas. And these are the two most prominent of the Lutheran charities, and they employed Christmas seals to raise funds. And these are very collectible. And I'm going to, usually I refer to what I have as an accumulation. I'm actually going to refer to this as a collection because I think this actually qualifies as a collection, which a lot of things I have don't, but this does. We start with Lutheran Sanitarium, Wheat Ridge, Colorado. These are the first three Lutheran Sanitarium seals. The seal on the left is from 1910. That is probably the worst space filler anybody ever put in his collection. I put it in there because it's really scarce and hard to find, and I thought I would never see it again, and I haven't. And so that is my space filler for 1910. 1911, you see it's very similar to that. and 1912 has the crest of Martin Luther in the middle. I wanted you to see what it looked like if you had to find one of the 1910s. So I found this on the internet and I put this in there to show you what it should look like as opposed to what I've got. That is the 1910 seal. And you see the tent that's there. That comes from the Lutheran Sanitarium was a tent colony established in 1905 to treat tuberculosis patients in the high, dry climate of Colorado. And so it actually, it was a tent colony, and I'm going to show you one of the tents. You notice, or may not have noticed, that all of these seals that are here carry an Edgewater, Colorado address. The tent colony was actually in Wheat Ridge. Edgewater, Colorado was their mailing address. And so they put that on the seal. This is one of the early tents that was donated actually by the Walter League, tent number 1, and it shows a patient in front of it. In 1905, this was dedicated, and the seals were released in 1910 to raise money to support it. Later, a very elegant sanitarium was built in Wheat Ridge, and this is an artist's rendition of that. And you can see based on the car that's parked in front of it that this is about dated around 1910. I have managed to find a number of Lutheran Sanitarium seals that are tied. And this is the ideal way to collect them. This one is the number 2 seal, and it is tied on January 1st, 1912. And they had added Happy New Year or New Year's greetings to the seal, as well as Christmas or Xmas. And so this was a New Year's card that was mailed on January 1st. This is the ideal way to collect them, and they're getting very scarce. So I'm sharing what I have of these. Here's another. This one is not as desirable because it's out of the period. It's clearly tied, it's clearly used, but it's used in December of 1913. So it's out of the period, so it's less desirable than the one I showed you. And here is one of my favorites. I found this when I was at the Air Force Academy in an antique store in Manitou Springs. And I didn't even know what I had for several years until I figured out what Lutheran Sanitarium seals looked like. And this was this was an excellent find. These are the Lutheran Sanitarium seals from 1913 through 1916. In 1915, they did not issue any seals. So what you see are 1913, 1914, and 1916. What you see underneath the 1914 seal is a very scarce seal that was part of a booklet that was released that had an error, a color error. The black color around the frame was not included here. This is an actual error. And you know, when you see something like this, you have to wonder whether or not it's part of a progressive proof set that got separated and you got one of them. And so it looks like it might be an error. This is an actual error. It's a very scarce seal. And here is a seal from 1914, which is tied and clearly canceled. And here is a 1916 seal, canceled and used on a Christmas card. Very hard to find these now. Then
And I got a
yeah, Paul,
question I have.
what's
I remember
that?
when Christmas seals came out, they were not allowed to be on the front. They had to go on the back. Is it different
They
with these
wanted
cards?
they actually instructed you to put them on the back, but some people didn't do that. So
Okay,
fortunately, we have some that were tied,
gotcha.
but the Postal Service and actually the Lutheran Sanitarium seal makers were printed on their booklet that you should put this on the back rather than the front.
Okay.
But fortunately, some people did not. And that's why we have some of these, but they're hard to find. Then they released seals in 1917 and 1918. You'll notice 1918 is the same as 1917. All they did is take the date off. And they saved a lot of effort for designing a new seal by just doing that. And these all came from booklet pains. And here's a 1917 tied to a card. Hard to find now. And here we get to three very interesting years. 1919, 1920, and 21. They all picture the new Lutheran Sanitarium that was built, the elegant building. That's all there. What makes these really interesting is something I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes. Here's 1919 tied to a card. And here's what really makes it interesting. It is estimated that fewer than 10 of these cards with tied 1920 seals exist. And why is that? And the reason that that happened is they sent the 1920 seals by rail east. The whole shipment went from Wheat Ridge east to be distributed. The train that was carrying the seals derailed and caught fire, and it burned up the 1920 shipment. So all that remains are what they had on hand in Wheat Ridge. And what I have here are two, and these are both very rare. One is the 1920 seal used and tied. And then what they had is they had some essays on hand. So they used those because they would run out of the 1920 seals. So they started to use the essays. And this is a very rare card, and it's tied and used in 1920. These are probably the best things I have in my collection, these two. They're very rare.
Stanley, were they coil stamps? Because I noticed.
They
Yeah.
were booklet
Okay.
panes.
Okay. I
These
see it now.
all came from booklet panes. You can see this is the end seal.
Yeah.
This one's in the middle, but they're all booklet panes.
Mm-hmm.
Here is a quality control wasn't so good in those days, and here's a 1921 booklet pane that's been miscut, and you can see that part of this seal down in the bottom at the left is part of the adjoining seal. (1922 to 24), they changed the design, and they went to some very attractive, very Christmassy scenes on the seals. Here's 1923 used and 1924 used on cards. Getting hard to find. Here's 25 through 28. 1925 is on far left, and 26, 27, and 28. Those seals. They all come from booklet panes. And here are two 1925s tied to cards. And on the bottom right, you see a Christmas seal, 1925 Christmas seal was included. It didn't get tied, but the Lutheran Sanitarium seal did. and it's tied with the 1925 cancel. Then here is 1926 and 1927. Both of those are tied. And then here you get to something interesting. This, you see a 4-margin copy on the right. This is the first evidence of the seals being released in sheets as opposed to booklet panes. This is the first year that I saw where these seals were actually released in booklet panes. So you had a 4-margin copy, and then on the left you see the end of a booklet pane. And then you get to a year, which is an anniversary year for Wheat Ridge. It is the 1930, which is the 25th anniversary. The tent colony was established in 1905. And so this seal commemorates the 25th anniversary of Wheat Ridge. And here is a very damaged booklet pane, water damaged and everything, of the 1930 seals, along with the booklet that it came from. You can see it's all rust stained and everything. But the point that you were making, if you look at the bottom of this and look at what's written on that, that's part of the cover for the booklet. Place seals on reverse side of envelopes and postcards and on Christmas packages. They instructed you to do it, but fortunately, some people didn't follow that advice. They just put them where they wanted. And so we have some seals surviving from this generation that are tied. And here is a very nice cover from 1938. It's got a cachet that has Evangelical Lutheran Sanitarium, Wheat Ridge, and it's mailed from Wheat Ridge on the 25th, Christmas Day. So that is where the presentation on Wheat Ridge ends, because I've got something else that I want to share this with, and that is Grace Lutheran Sanitarium, San Antonio, Texas. So I have the rest of these, but I could go through all, but I really would rather show you this. And I want to point out something here. As I did research for this presentation, I discovered an exhibit by Alan Mull. And this exhibit is entitled Wheat Ridge, the Other Christmas Seal. And it is really a remarkable piece of collecting. And I gave this to Paul. And so if anybody wants it, Paul can send it to you. It's by Alan Mull. We had to shrink it down because the size of the file was pretty high. So we shrank it down and it's manageable now. But this is a really remarkable piece of collecting. You'll be really impressed with what you see here. And then here is Grace Lutheran Sanitarium. I dug this card out of an eBay dealer's stock, and somebody had written across the top of it. So that's a little distracting, but the fact is it shows the entrance to Grace Lutheran Sanitarium in San Antonio, Texas. And here is a close-up view of the sanatorium is what this one's called. Also from an eBay dealer's stock. It was a postcard. This is the first Grace Lutheran Christmas seal. And of course it shared Christmas. It was a holiday seal, so it shared Christmas and New Year's. And the seal on the left is from 1950. The next seal that they issued was in 1918. So the 1819 seal is on the right. And because they didn't issue any other seals, anything that goes within a 3 or 4 year period leading up to 1918 is considered to be within the period, the acceptable period for use. And then Green's catalog refers to both Grace Lutheran and Lutheran Sanitorium, Wheat Ridge, that all of these are locals. They're more than locals. They're national and even international. What I discovered was a 1915 Grace Lutheran Sanitorium seal used in Canada. Mailed in Canada, you can see it was mailed in 1916. So it's genuine usage within the period because they didn't issue any others from 1915 to 1918. And it's on a New Year's card. But this is an international use of what Green's catalog is calling a local. And it really is more than that. Here's 1920, 21, and 22. They went to larger format and very elegant designs. Here's a 1920 that's tied to a card. Very attractive card. And a 21 that's tied to a card. Very credible usage. Here's 23, 24, and 25. You can see they were experimenting with the size of them and even the shape from the far left. The 23 is a different kind of seal than we've seen before, but that was released in 1923. 26 and 27. Again, they're experimenting with the size. These are all from booklet panes as well. And here is a 27 tied to a card. Very attractive usage of that seal. Here's 28, 29, 30, and 31. These seals were, and you notice they borrow designs, and I'll show you more of that, where they can save money. They don't have to pay for design cost or anything. So they are borrowing one design from one year and using it again. Here's 1928 used on a seal, on a card rather. Here's 1932 and 1933. These two seals are virtually identical, with the exception that they put a gold border around Martin Luther's family crest in the center of that in 1933, and took the date and changed it to 33 from 32. Here's 34, 35, and 36. And again, they very consistent use of Martin Luther's family crest in the middle of these seals. And here is a 24, which is tied and canceled. Very sound usage of the seal. 37, and you notice one of them was rouletted and the other one was perforated. So these are two out of a booklet. That one booklet was perforated and the other booklet was had rouletting between the seals. And here's 38, 39, 40, and 41. And you can see how they save money on the design because 40 and 41 are the same design. All they did is change the colors and the dates. Here's 42, 43, 44, 45, and 46. And look at 42 and 45. Same design, just change the date. They didn't even change the colors in that case. Just reuse the same design. And here's a 43 that's tied to a card. They're getting very hard to find, so I feel like compelled to include them. Here's a 47, a 48, a 49, a 50, and a 51. All these are Grace Lutheran, San Antonio, Texas. And then 52 through 59, all different designs. 60 and 61. They experimented a little bit, made larger format. And then here's a really nice cover, which has a Grace Lutheran Sanitorium seal tied to it, and 2 Christmas seals are also tied from 1961. All 3 were tied. That's an outstanding cover. Here's 62, 63, and 64. They didn't compromise on the designs. These are all different. And then in 1965, Grace Lutheran Sanatorium changed its name to Grace Lutheran Hospital. Now, what happened when they got the TB effort under control? A lot of these sanitariums and sanatoriums lost their mission. So what they had to do was to find a new mission. And this is an example of what happened in 65. Grace Lutheran Sanitorium changed its name and became Grace Lutheran Hospital. And it changed its mission. So now it became a hospital as opposed to just, and generally treating patients as opposed to just treating TB patients. And here in 1967, they changed to Lutheran General Hospital. And here are the seals that followed that. These are all from San Antonio. And you'll see the third one to the right on the top. They're showing us the 1915 seal, which was the first one that was issued by Grace Lutheran Sanitorium. And finally, these are all that I have of, I think there are some more of these, but I haven't been able to find them. These go from 74 to 77. That's the extent of Grace Lutheran that I have. And that's everything in the presentation. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
Questions, folks?
What a fantastic presentation, Stan. I appreciate you sharing it with all of us. I'm looking forward to putting it on the site for all to view, and I know I want to look at it again. Maybe you said this earlier. Do you know who printed these, and is there records of the volume at which they printed these at? Hundreds of thousands, tens of millions, and did they use the same printer? I mean, it just seems to clearly must have evolved over time, right, Stan?
I don't think there were tens of millions. I don't know the printer, Charles. I really don't. And I wouldn't describe myself as a student. I would describe myself as a collector and accumulator, and that's how this arrived. But that's interesting, and I can probably look that up and get back to you. The printers are in the Green's catalog. They'll tell us who the printers were. I
Yeah,
don't know
just
if
to
they use multiple printers.
yeah, just a curiosity from my end as well. I mean, and kind of getting a feel for the ubiquitous nature of it. Obviously, they look fairly professional. They're well done. Clearly, they had to have the proper adhesive and gum to be able to stick and go through the mails, and I mean, and all that good stuff, right? Just like other seals. So, yeah,
These are very professional. And
yeah.
you can see how the evolution took them from the beginning, where they were pretty crude,
Mhm.
up to now.
Yeah,
And,
no,
and
absolutely. And I mean, the fact that they were making them booklets and you showed a great example because those are really hard to find, even with, I'll take it with the rust stains and the staples still in it, and to print those out as well. But they weren't dispensed though, right? I mean, these booklets, like we think of booklets that used to be dispensed from the United States Postal Service. These were created as booklets, but clearly handed out, right? Or done in mass mailings. Is that right?
these are all sheets. All of these came from sheets. I don't know when the transition took place.
Yeah. Okay.
Here I see the two at the top come from sheets. I don't know whether they rouletted them.
Hmm.
It looks like that may have come from a sheet that was rouletted between them. This still looks like it's rouletted on four sides there.
Yeah,
So
it does. The 65 definitely looks rouletted, but whether it's five and a
yeah,
half or seven, yeah, definitely.
maybe they printed the sheet and they rouletted it rather than perforated it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't paid a lot of attention to that. These look rouletted again all around. I don't know when this transition took place. This one's appears to be rouletted on three sides, so it evidently would have come from a sheet rather than a booklet.
Mm-hmm. So that I could go on, but I just want to again say thank you. There may be other questions out there. Just really well done and put together. Really well done. Thank you.
Yeah, I
These
found the
are,
booklets interesting, that format with just one stamp, with a kind of a landscape orientation.
yeah.
Uh, Jim in Southwick up here, were these distributed throughout all the Lutheran churches, or were these really just regional? Because I've got a mammoth Christmas seal collection, and plus a lot of loose ones that come in. I've never seen these before out east.
Well, I appreciate that. These took kind of forever to put together. I mean, this is the only thing, one of the few things that I have that I could actually describe as a collection, because everything else looks like an accumulation.
Dick, I saw your hand up. Did you have a question, sir?
Yes, I do. You guys have skirted around the question, and I don't know that it's been asked directly. How were these seals distributed?
Yes.
Did they
I think they
obviously
were
they just
mailed
give them
out.
away? Did they have to buy them?
Yes, they have to buy them.
Was it regional? Was it national?
It was national.
What do you know about the distribution, Stan?
These were national campaigns, and they were designed to raise money to support the effort. And here it would have been a TB treatment, and people paid for them. I'm not sure what they paid, but they did pay for them, and they were sent out through the mail. And they may have done what we see now with Easter seals and everything. They just send them to you and hope you return something.
Yeah.
They may have done that.
Okay, thanks.
Stanley, what years did the Texas group go to, and what year did the Colorado go to?
The Texas goes to 1977. The Colorado goes further, but I stopped because I wanted to make room for this, for the Grace Lutheran. So I can tell you I'm gonna have to dig to find that, but I
Oh,
can
no, I'm
tell you,
just wondering.
it goes on quite. I think it goes on further.
Okay.
Although they had to struggle with that sanitarium because it was losing its mission too. So I don't know if there was a transition like you see with Grace Lutheran, where they clearly moved to a hospital that treated general illness as opposed to strictly TB. And I don't know when that would have happened. I can check and see.
Yeah, no,
I cut it off at 38.
it's interesting when you say the mission changed, with the decline in onset of tuberculosis.
Right. That's what a lot of that's where these transitions were taking place, is they ran out of mission. There no longer were enough TB patients to support the hospital. So they changed their focus and they changed their mission. And you can see that happening here with these.
Yeah.
So Stan, clearly, the holy grail for you too, I guess, would be if they did this mass mailing, would be nice to find one of those original mass mailings with the letter and one of these booklets inside of it saying, hey, here's our mission. Can you, buy these for X amount and donate, et cetera, et cetera. I presume that's got to be out there somewhere, right?
And I'm sure it is. I mean, you get them enclosed in with a letter that begs you to return some money. And
yes.
I may have some of that. Okay. I'll look for it and get back to you because I may have one of those.
Just be curious to see the language that they used again. I mean, we've seen a lot of these and we still get these today. So I'm just curious to see what they were saying.
I just got one today from Christmas Seals with, return address labels. And I'll be getting one later in the spring with Christmas. They're the tuberculosis, the Christmas Seal people, but they're kind of Easter themed. So they're really trying to branch out.
Yep.
I have several of those, especially for Easter seals. I've got several of those letters that they just send them out and you get them. And what they hope is you answer the appeal. The letters there, and it says, we need this, contribute as much as you can. And sometimes they get money back and sometimes they don't.
Well, I'm an accumulator and, I get the seals and I put them in, I'll send in a little bit, but I even throw out all that paperwork. And like Charlie said, there's a lot of information on there. It really is. Yeah. But you just can't keep everything. That's why they call it ephemera, gets thrown out.
That's advice I was given years ago. When everything I saw that I liked, I'll just try to collect that. And an older collector said to me, you can't collect everything. If you don't focus on something, you're never going to have any kind of collection.
Yeah.
Stan, we've all gone through that, Stan. I just have to say, it's a big funnel. We try to narrow it down. We go down rabbit holes. Somehow the funnel expands again. And then we try to get more. So it's
been through that, and Paul and I wrote a couple of papers about some of the stuff I dredged up. It's just unbelievable what I stumble across.
Yep, just lucky didn't get thrown out. Yep. Other questions for Stanley, folks?
I thought Catherine Close was going to join us.
I saw Father Bud here.
Is she here?
Father Bud.
Father Bud.
Oh. Yeah, well, I don't know about that.
Hi, Steve.
She's there?
He's here.
He.
She.
No, it's a he.
Oh, okay. Well, I was looking for Catherine Close, my colleague and writing pal.
No.
She said I gave her the Zoom link, and I was hoping that she would come too.
Well, the great thing while she's not here, Stan, is you're allowing us to record this, and we'll edit it and I'll process it and we'll get it on our YouTube channel, and everyone will be able to review it and view it. And I also appreciate you sharing this presentation with us too, so we can put that on the site and spread that far and wide. Just
And
a
I'll get
great,
it to you.
great
I'll get it to
study.
you after the meeting, Charlie, for the
Perfect.
website.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
Hey,
Okay, well, thank you very much, Stan.
thank you very much.
Can we have a round of
Appreciate it.
applause for Stan,
Give a
please?
little-
Just again, an excellent
good.
presentation.
Appreciate the
Silent share.
opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I know, Charlie, you have something for show and tell, and Rob Sternberg has something. I had something, but I don't have anything to screen share with. So, uh,
Well, I'll just say it out loud. Paul forced me to pull up a few slides so I could do some show and tell, right,
I
Paul?
twist your arm. Yeah, you always have
Yeah.
such interesting stuff.
I don't, I'm just
Yeah.
digging. When at 3 a.m, you never know what wacky stamps are going to show up. So you want me to go first and just try to
Yeah,
share
'cause
from you? Let me do that.
Rob said he was going to squeeze in a dinner break. So, yeah, why don't you start up?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it'll
And
be a few
Stanley,
slides.
will you close your screen?
Thank you. I'm going to try to share this. Oh, yeah, I have to wait for the sharing to stop.
Yeah,
Do I need to unshare mine?
just unshare. Mhm.
Yes, sir. Thank
I
you.
hate to see it go, but it's very good.
Okay, let's see what I can. I need to stop sharing. Stop sharing. There we go. There
Very
it
good.
is.
We're good then.
We're good.
Thank you.
Excellent. Let's see. I could share. Let's see if I can do this. I'll go to the iCloud Drive. I just happen to be on my daughter's iPad this evening, so I'm just going to do my best to pull this up. As a preamble, I like my match of medicines, and I'm always looking for plate varieties and double transfers and cracks and all sorts of things. And while I haven't been able to get to many shows lately, there was one of our Lancaster stamp shows I was able to get to, what I think late last year. Let's see if I can pull this up. So let's go back. And I'll go back to the beginning. Here we go. And so I think it was at a show, and I'm not sure that I presented this before. What I did do with this presentation was I actually was invited last evening to the Philatelic Society of Los Angeles. And they have their meetings at 7:30 West Coast time, and I got on a quick Zoom at 10:30 our time. I think I wrapped up about midnight, and then did an intro, and I met a lot of other new collectors on the West Coast, and a few of them are into matcha medicines as well. And they did a little show, tell, and ask. And this was one that I actually pulled up because a couple of the guys and the president of the society is from Rochester, New York. And lo and behold, this little perfume revenue from CB Woodworth and Son is out of Rochester, New York. So I did it for those guys there at that club in Los Angeles. And I'll give you a brief update if you haven't seen this before. I think the last time I don't even know if I did present it to you.
Yeah, I think this is new.
Yeah, from a show telling
Right.
ask. So I think everybody's aware of U.S. private Die Proprietary stamps and the tax that was levied during the Civil War by Abe Lincoln. He taxed a number of commodities, medicines and matches and playing cards, as well as canned fruit for only about a month, and perfumes. And so all of these were taxed. They started taxing them and using the 1 and 2 and 4 cent general issue proprietary revenues. And then in 63, 64, a number of entrepreneurs in the proprietary business said, can you make our own stamps? And Butler and Carpenter said, yes, we can. And so, that's the sort of area that I've studied and I've presented numerous times to this group. Here is a perfume stamp that I don't think I have presented in the past. I'm showing 2 examples at the top because the one on the left I discovered a couple years ago, and it's a really nice all over double transfer. And lo and behold, I found a second copy, and it happens to be on a different type of paper, watermark paper. The one on the left is on silk. And I'm going to show you that it confirms this is a constant plate variety. It is a double transfer. It is from the same position on the pane of 210. So I can make a couple of assumptions, presumptions. But I want to give you a little history of the company itself. This is a very well-known, very prominent perfume company here in the United States out of Rochester. And then I'll go into high-res scans and show you the double transfer. Again, just during my searching for all sorts of things, I collect the bottles as well. I collect the trade cards. I collect, the bill heads, all that good stuff, in addition to the stamps. So can you see my second slide? I'm sure you can.
Yeah, I can
Here's a
see
little,
it.
thank you. Here's a little history of Woodworth and Son out of Rochester, New York. They were founded originally in Rochester in 1855 by a Mitchell and Ezra Taylor. And they're the ones that put this company together originally. The next year, they were acquired by Woodworth and Bonnell. I have a picture of C.B. Woodworth there on the left. I could not find a picture of Reuben, but at least I found a picture of C.B. And that's Chauncey. I also show in the middle there a trade card. We've talked about trade cards in the past. All of these proprietors during this era and after did a lot of advertising and marketing, and they made postcard-sized trade cards with images on the front that would be sitting in, any general store or sundry, and they would have, if you flipped it over, it would have all the details on the back. Usually the person that owned the store would even put a little hand stamp on the back of the trade card as the trade card was given away to remind that, potential buyer, I carry these different wares. That would be medicines, that would be, perfumes, playing cards, all that. But you see a lot of these trade cards for the medicines and you see them for the perfumes. You see a lot less with respect to matches. You just don't see as many in playing cards. There's a nice little bottle, fragrance, garden fragrance. Not only, and this is the third bullet down, they were really one of America's earliest perfume houses. They didn't just produce the perfume and the soaps and the toilet articles. They actually also had a factory that made the glassware. And so they made their own glassware for their own perfumes. And so their bottles can be very ornate. They're really well crafted, and the related products. There's an advertisement on the right asking, ask for Woodworth's Blue Lilies, a perfume, concentrated strength, exquisite delicacy. They would go through all the machinations. They really did well. They did really well, this company. By 1870, the glass manufacturing had stopped and they just focused on making the perfumes, and their motto was nothing but the best. I'm showing that 1897 advertising card for their Blue Lilies. That's a little bit later than the one in the middle. And they promoted themselves as producing imperishable perfumes with triple extracts, et cetera, et cetera. And this company became so successful here in the United States that they were eventually acquired by the French perfume house Bourgeois, the first American perfume company to suffer this fate, and many other perfume companies would eventually be bought out by a number of very large French perfumers. But this one did really, really well for, half a century. And like these companies during this period after 1862, when the tax was levied, they had to have a stamp on their wares to pay the tax to the government. And they have a 1 cent stamp that they issued in green, and it's called RT20. It's in your Scott catalog. It's the size of a definitive. It was issued in March of 72, and it ceased printing in March of 83, just about the time when the tax was repealed in 1883. You didn't require tax anymore on perfumes and medicines and matches and all, and so that's when they stopped. They issued $2.5 million on silk paper and about $4.4 million on pink and watermarked. Definitely more on watermarked. The pink ones you don't find as often. They're out there. They probably maybe issued, $500,000 or $1 million, and the rest would have been on watermark paper. They also issued a 2 cent stamp, and they were taxed 1 and 2 cents depending on the volume. How large was that bottle of perfume? How many, milliliters were in it? And that's what determined the tax. And that was RT21, the 2 cent blue stamp. That was issued later in the life, 1877, and then again in early 83, just before the tax was repealed. Very limited run. And all totaled of the 3 different paper types, silk, pink, and watermarked, only about 285,000. So, from finding a really nice copy, because as you know, all of these were utilitarian. They were adhered to the bottle. They were often just peeled off and or removed. Many of them sealed the top. Some were put on the base. And so, they were not meant to be saved and or collected. They were meant to be, kind of used for the revenue and or destroyed. And so I've looked long and hard for a double transfer on the 2-cent blue, not to find one. But fortunately, I was able to locate one on the 1-cent green, and there's a lot more to look at out there. And you could find them. They're only a few dollars, a stamp if you go look out there on Hipstamp or eBay. So they are out there. Just finding a double transfer, not easy. So let's take a look at the design, and I'm going to show you a lot more blow-ups and really get to the design. Whenever there's double transfer on a proprietary stamp, we add the suffix T. That's just pretty common as in Scott. And B is for silk paper. D is for watermark. C is for pink. These are just the suffixes that we add onto the Scott catalog to denote the different paper types. And so this double transfer, when I found that stamp on the right, which is the double transfer, I was rubbing my eyes because everything looked doubled. Just everything. And I thought maybe I was seeing double, but I wasn't. There is a distinct 1.5 millimeter shift south overall over the entire design for the most part. And so let's dive on in. But you could see right even from the surface looking at it, if you look at CB Woodworth and Son, if you look at Rochester, New York, everything is a little bit doubled. If you look at the bottom lower frame line underneath proprietary, you can see an extra line of ink. And so double transfers are usually caused right when the transfer roll is rocked into the plate before it's hardened. These are lined up using guide dots and they're ruled in place, and you want very neat columns and you want very neat rows. And every once in a while, that stamp positioned in that plate of, in this case, 210 stamps of positions are on it, was maybe not where it needed to be. So you would, remove the transfer roll. You would take the plate. They would burnish out that design that was rocked in as best as they could. And then they would re-rock in the position again. But not always was the original impression completely burnished out. And so that's probably what happened here in this case, is that it was just not in first time appropriately, and they re-entered it. And that's why we get this double transfer. And it's pretty prominent. So if you do a comparison and you look at the top shows just the U.S. Internal Revenue. If you look at the top right, just above the V, you could see a guide dot. That little green dot is a guide dot. It is what helped the stenographers and the lay out the plate. And they would have a little point on the transfer roll that they would line up there, and then they would rock in the relief. And so those guide dots you see throughout this printing process, for many, many, many decades. Rod and Wright Hatch used them. Tope and Carpenter used them. Of course, Butler and Carpenter printed these stamps, and even the National Banknote. So you'll see those guide dots, which is what helped them lay them out. But if we look at the stamp below, you can see this green horizontal line that's cutting through U.S. and internal and revenue, and that's the shift down. This is not just straight ink. This is very consistent with what would be a true double transfer of the position being lowered. If you look below the upper label, you could even see some stray ink horizontal into the white space above the vignette. If you look now at the lower image, you'll see the normal of the bottom, proprietary. And if you look at the lowest image, they're double with the yellow circle, you could see a faint horizontal line, which is that lower frame line from the prior image that had been pushed in on the plate. So again, indications that this is all over. And they had rocked in almost a complete position, and then they burnished and they re-rocked it in again. If we look at the left, you can see the normal print, C.B. Woodworth and Sons, and a picture of Woodworth himself. These stamps, the proprietary stamps, are exempt from the normal rules and regulations of the day where you couldn't have a live individual on a stamp. But clearly during this period, the 1860s, 70s, and 80s, when they were printing these proprietaries, you could put all sorts of things on your stamp. As long as you had U.S. Internal Revenue and a numeral and spelled out what it was, 1 cent, 2 cent, 4 cent, Then the rest of the stamp was yours to do with as you liked, as long as you fulfilled the basic requirement of the government. You could see down there at the lower left, the CBW, just highlighting it, but the entire CB Woodworth and Sons is shifted down. It's really prominent in the C and the B and the W. On the right in Son and even the period, you can see that extra shift down. If you look in the center where the numeral 1 is, the rate, you can see that that's partially shifted as well. And there's some stray ink from the arc into that white space, again, above the vignette. All the way on the right is a 1, the normal 1 at the top, and you can see the shift down. Now remember that 1, I flipped it 90 degrees, right? So it is on the left-hand side in the vertical. I have just flipped it to fit it here, but you can see the shift down in the O, N, and E. And then finally at the bottom, you could see the normal Rochester, New York printing there, nice and neat and clean. And then you can see the complete doubling of Rochester with the stray ghost images again of the R, the O, the C, everything just being lowered. And you can really see it prominently in the N and the Y and the periods after that. Everything is shifted down about 1.5 millimeters. So, a great little find, a nice little double transfer, definitely confirmed it, great. But as with anything, you want to find a second copy. And through however long it took, a couple of years of looking to find a second copy and looking at a lot of these, the one on the left is the one on silk paper that I showed you, and that's the one I just described and zoomed in on. The plate position is unknown. There are not many multiples that exist of these stamps, let alone a complete pane. So trying to plate this to a specific position, we'll probably never know. But what's really nice is, these are printed over many years on 3 different types of paper. And what is nice is that on the right, I discovered a similar exact double transfer with the same exact features shifted down 1.5 millimeters, and it is on watermarked paper. So this, no doubt to me, was on the original plate that was created. They first printed silk, and then they printed pink, and then they printed watermarked. And this position, no doubt, is the single position, same position that exists on that plate. There are other subtle double transfers that I have found on this issue, the 1 cent, and it's at the upper right. I didn't show that here. It's definitely looking like it is a partial double transfer. I need to find a second copy to confirm it. But this one unequivocally is definitely a double transfer. So in summary, for my little show, tell, and ask, these CB Woodworth and Sons, earliest American perfume houses, they were very, very successful. They were eventually, acquired by the French company. They issued their own private Die Proprietary Revenue stamps to pay the tax on their wares, the 1 cent and the 2 cent. I discovered now at least 2 copies of this double transfer on RT20, the 1 cent green. It's pretty significant, and it's nice because it's overall. It's not just in one area or in a few letters. It's kind of the entire design. Of course, what am I looking for now? No doubt the pink paper example is waiting for me to somehow find if I search long and hard enough. It only took a few years to find a second copy. It might take a few years to find a third. But that should exist because they issued the silk paper first from the same plate. They then transferred that plate. I think it went to Continental Banknote. They did the pink for a short amount of time. And then they went to the watermark paper National Banknote before stopping. So same plate, just a couple of different houses printed them up on those different papers. So that's my little story, Paul, and I appreciate the opportunity to share it with everybody. I hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Now, when you say the shift is 1.5 millimeters, that just sounds real big to me compared to, the little tiny spaces.
If you go in there with a micrometer and you look at the original and
yeah.
you measure that down, it's about 1.5 to 1.6 millimeters, kind of on average. That's what it looks like. But it would be consistent across the whole design because you would have laid down the original transfer roll, and that would have been on the plate. And then if they burnished that out and then they re-rocked it in, they tried to get close, but definitely probably wasn't where they needed it to be. And so they re-rocked it back in. But the distance is 1.5. And you'll see double transfers that can be 0.5 millimeter, 1 millimeter, 1.5. I've seen some that are even more prominent, 2 to 2.5 millimeters. I published a paper on a new discovery of a match stamp, the Trenton Match Company stamp that's unlisted in Scott that has a significant double transfer. And it is a shift from east to west of about 2.5 millimeters. That's pretty significant shift. That first impression on that plate was really rocked in wrong. They burnished it out and they came back and then they lined it up. And I was able to plate that because our friend Eric Jackson has a complete pane still intact of the RO 176D, which is very rare. And I was able to look at that and I was able to find the exact position where that double transfer was located. I think it's position 40. And I published that a couple of years ago in the TAR. So I'm always looking for these. And here's
That
the
has to be a
latest
lot
one
of
that I
fun, though, to
found.
find something like that when you have a master sheet to go by.
Whenever I can get multiples or a pane, I really scour and look at every single one, and I take high resolution images of them so I have them. And then you can blow them up on your computer and you can look at them without having to look through a loop and strain your eyes. That's the nice thing about having flatbed scanners and large monitors is we can really look at the details.
And that's why you have thick glasses.
That's exactly why I have thick glasses. Very thick glasses.
Now, when the law came out and these stamps were required on documents and objects and things like that, they would get them from the government for free. They would pay the government the penny or the 2 cents. Is that how it worked? And then they used them. I'm talking about just the regular stamps.
The regular revenues. Yeah, those revenues were available. Yes,
face value.
Absolutely.
And then when they got the custom ones, they paid a little premium over that.
Absolutely. So private die proprietary vendors absolutely paid for the production. So Butler and Carpenter would charge that proprietor X amount of dollars to create the die, to get it approved, to create the plate, and then to print those stamps and supply them in whatever that order would be. And yes, so they would pay a premium. And the proprietors knew they were willing to pay that. One, they paid the tax, and that was fine. But you've seen from prior presentations that these can be very ornate. These proprietors looked at these stamps as marketing material.
Yeah, advertising.
Right? And they would put that, they were like certificates of authenticity. If you had a bottle of your elixir, whatever your medicine was, you would put that stamp on top of it to seal the cork or to seal the box. And to the consumer, that showed authenticity because the seal was unbroken. And the proprietor, then the consumer, when they bought it, would break the stamp, destroy the stamp. They would open it up, they would drink it, or they would eat the pill, and they would feel so much better because the contents were very high in alcohol and other sorts of drugs.
Yeah.
And then they would come back and buy it. But so the proprietors had to pay. So Butler and Carpenter made a pretty good penny on producing these private die proprietary stamps for the 200 or so companies that they produced these for. Absolutely.
Very nice. Were they the only company to make them?
Yeah, so because Butler and Carpenter had the contract with the government to produce the revenue stamps, they did first. They did the bulk of them. But then even Butler and Carpenter were absorbed into American banknote, national banknote, right? So when you get to the end of this era in the 1870s, 1880s, you now have the BEP, Bureau of Engraving and Printing, is doing a couple of these proprietary stamps themselves. Some of these plates had a very long life, and they went from Butler and Carpenter to American banknote to national banknote to the BEP. But for the sake of this conversation, Butler and Carpenter did 80+% of the creation and printing of the private die proprietary stamps.
And then when the tax was over, they just took the money out and kept printing them and used them as advertising again.
Well, no. So now you're opening up a whole nother area. So
yes.
So some of these proprietors wanted to continue to use stamps on their packages, even though the tax wasn't needed. So they found other printers to take a similar design. They scrubbed out the numeral and the tax and U.S. Internal Revenue, and they would put in sometimes the word trademark or genuine, and they would still use them in the same way on their packages. We call those facsimiles or product labels. Because they continued to use those. Some of them look exactly like the stamps that were issued. Some of them look nothing like the stamps that were issued. But what it did do, it continued the marketing and advertising because over 20, 25 years, they had built in the mind of the consumer that anytime I go buy Swaim's Elixir, I expect that stamp to be sealing the top of that bottle. I want to see what it looks right. So they still printed these. A couple of companies still printed these for decades afterwards. Decades. Yes.
Was it true that they said about marketing that it's the second oldest profession?
I think it could be 1A, maybe 1A or 1B.
Yeah.
It is an
Yeah.
old profession, Paul. They did a really good job. And some of these proprietors, if you get it to today's dollars, were billionaires. I mean, Demas Barnes
Mhm.
and a few others were worth hundreds of millions of dollars back in the 1860s,
Yeah,
1870s. They really were. It was big business, big business.
Yep. Yep. Very good. Well, questions for Charlie, folks.
Charlie,
Thank you very much.
they drifted into the late 1890s into the Spanish-American War.
Yes. So they brought, well,
I'll look to
Stan,
see.
I know you know that. Yeah. I mean, they brought the tax back in 1880, right? 1899, 1900 for Spanish American. Absolutely. Right. And you know, from battleships and all that, they did a lot of overprinting in there, and there were a lot of proprietors, but also they did issue a short amount of private die proprietary stamps as well, right? Johnson and Johnson, and a number of others during that Spanish American War, and on the medicine side, right? They brought the tax back. They issued those ODT Chemical, RRR Radway, Lyman and Kemp, a number of vendors during that 1898 to 1900 period of the Spanish American War issued those stamps too. But you could add more to that, Stan. I know you know that well.
I'm going to look to see what I can find about possibly pre-cancer.
Yeah. Well, so you know, there's Emerson Drug, Elwood, Charles Marchand, Johnson and Johnson, Landman and Kemp. I mean, almost all of those companies I'm mentioning, I think, did overprints, hand stamps on the battleships. I think most of them did. I believe they all did. So, but yeah, something we could talk about, Stan. It's an area I also collect separately.
I'll look for that.
Yeah.
I may have some.
Excellent. That would be great. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Charlie.
My pleasure.
That's good. Yep. Okay. Next up, Rob.
Okay, can you hear me?
Good, sir. Thank you.
We can.
Okay. Let me also try to share my screen.
Sure.
So-
While you're doing that, this presentation will be on the website, just like all the others as well. So, you know, we'll make it available. So thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
My pleasure.
Okay, you're on.
Okay,
It's good.
can you see
Yep.
the image?
We can.
Okay. So I'll try to keep this kind of short because, you know, we don't want to miss the Yankees game in a few minutes.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that, Rob, because you know where I'm going. I'm just saying.
So, as some of you know, one of my collecting topics is the International Physical Year, and I've been slowing down a little bit. I've got all the low-hanging fruit, I think, but I have about 300 covers, and about half of them are first day covers, and I guess I have to count about 20 of them are hand-drawn covers. So this is a fairly recent acquisition, and the artist is Dorothea Bundy, known as Dottie Bundy. And I realized after I bought this that she was a somewhat kind of well-regarded cachet artist from from the 1950s up until the 1990s. So I like this cover. She uses an image that kind of refers to the IGY stamp. It's got the kind of hands between God and Adam that you would see on the roof of the Sistine Chapel, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. And rather than showing the solar prominences that were one of the features studied during the IGY, she shows the earth, and man, sick, explores the wonders of God's world. I guess in her cover, she characteristically put her nickname Dottie down here, and I guess she is kind of known for her nice script. There was also a card inside the cover, and here's the text, which is some standard stuff about the IGY and the stamp. So I have a kind of a few different views of more or less the same thing. And maybe I'm not on the right view here. It's not advancing for me. Let me try this again. let's advance. Okay, there we go. So I start to put this together as if it would be, well, this is actually the next view. In this view, I spent a little time today trying to figure out who this was sent to. And I made a little progress, except for the person himself. I couldn't find anything about him so far, but I did learn to decode some of the sort of military style addressing, which I've never really understood very well. But I guess this was sent to military assistance advisory group, and the address APO 500 at that time referred to U.S. military addresses serving the armed forces in Japan. And those sort of went through San Francisco. So I made a little progress in that, but still got to find out if I can who the addressee was. But one interesting thing about this cover, and again, it's kind of not advancing, so let me kick out for a second again and advance this manually and share again. Okay, so just some of my general IGY stuff there, a little information on Dottie Bundy. I found, so this is where I want help from all of you. I found a paper published in First Days that referred to her work, and I tried to get a copy of that. So if you're a member of the First Day Cover Society, you can get issues that go back, I don't know, about 10 years. They didn't go back far enough. If you go to the APS library, you can get issues that start about 20 years ago and go back further. They were too far back. So I was having a hard time getting the article, but I was able to get it through Franklin and Marshall by interlibrary loan from the University of Wisconsin Library. So I got the article, and it was by David Zubatsky, and the name was a little familiar. So when I kind of looked into him, it turned out he's from Lancaster. And so what I'm wondering if he was in the stamp club, or some of you knew him. I did not. My wife was actually a colleague of his at Millersville and knew him somewhat. But he got some awards from the First Day Cover Society and had a few articles with them, including the one on Dottie Bundy. So I guess that's mostly what I have to say, but I'm curious whether any of you knew David Zubatsky. He's unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. Was he in the Stamp Club, to anyone's knowledge?
Now you're gonna make me go look in the archive there, Stan, because and
Does
there's a
not
few
sound
folk-
familiar, at least since the turn of the
Yeah.
millennium.
Yeah, there's definitely folks that have been here a little longer than me, Stan. But yeah, Rob.
Yeah.
But maybe they do. I'll look in the archive. I know I have the archive.
Okay. But that was a kind of brought this little thing full circle. I was kind of tickled pink to find that someone from our area had written the article that I was looking for.
Very cool. Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
And maybe you described it. Right next to the hands, there's that octagonal. Did you say what that was earlier?
I actually didn't. I think it's maybe in the text here. So that was a logo for the IGY.
Ah, okay.
And so what do you call this? Is this a duplex?
Yeah. So same ink as the cancel and the First Day above. You think it was laid down at the same time?
It's part of the cancel.
Yeah. Sometimes you see them horizontal, and
Yeah.
sometimes you see them vertical. But this shows the satellite, whether it be Sputnik or Explorer, going around the Earth, and it's got I guess IGY in the year. So that's on all or most of the First Day covers.
Okay, great. I just noticed that now for the first time. Yeah. So looking at all these. So yeah, thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Rob, you're talking about the MAAG, the advisory group. I think they're the ones we used to hear about, when we're going to new territories. Well, we sent over advisors to Vietnam. I think that's who these people were.
Yeah. Apparently, when I was trying to look up I actually kind of showed this cover at the Lasso meeting last week, and I hadn't looked up any of the address information yet. So I guess the APO 500 signifies Japan. And after the war, that was the occupation APO number, but then it just became the number for service people stationed in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, there's I'm not in it, but I know for the military historians, there are lists that would show where each of the APOs and FPOs were located. At the time, they were not well kept secrets. But this one would go to the West Coast, the East Coast, and different parts, around the world.
I tried looking up this information online and actually was having trouble, but the AI tools were pretty good. They didn't give me the identity.
Yeah.
Other than that, all the other information was kind of found by AI. I guess I'm supposed to admit to that. So,
Yep. Welcome to the new world.
yeah.
Well, any questions for Rob? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Rob.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mhm. Other issues, folks? Anybody have anything else to share?
This is Jardel. I just want to show something I got a little while ago.
Wonderful.
Let me see if I can get it up here. I was down in Williamsburg for a Regency dance in the first weekend of March, and they had a stamp show. And Geezers Tweezers was down there, and he comes up to ours. And Kerry Cochran, who's from North Carolina, he was down there, but he doesn't come up to us our way anymore. But anyway, I found some Robert Kramer envelopes, covers, and one of them actually had his Fairview address on it.
Nice.
So it goes. I don't know how the heck the guy was from Virginia, and how he got it, I don't know. But that's it.
Is this a Rob Kramer who was in our club?
This is Rob Kramer
Yeah.
in our
Bob
club,
Kramer?
because
Yeah.
I had been over his house a couple times, and he lives on Fairview. It runs parallel to Marietta between,
Okay.
like Silver Spring, whatever, to Marietta. There's
Mhm,
right
mhm.
between 30 and Marietta Pike.
Gotcha.
This is him. That's
Well,
it.
we don't have to guess what was in the envelope, Mark, because we know it was
Yeah.
Philatelic.
That's
Clear.
why I got this one, because
Great.
everything else was actually from a relative
Got
from New Jersey or New York. But
it. Well, tell us the beautiful cover that was inside of that was still in there, Mark. You got it?
I wish we knew, right?
Damn. All right.
All right, that's it.
That's an
Thank you.
interesting label.
Yeah.
Now, if I can get out of here.
Well, it's dated 1987, so it looks like it came off a dot matrix printer, right? That's like an old little print, whatever kind of printer printed that up.
Yeah, in the old days.
Yeah, look at that. That thing
That's
is
when I first
pixel.
got started with a desktop computer.
Yep. That's early.
All right, that's it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mark.
Yep.
We would be remiss if we didn't promote the upcoming stamp shows, Paul.
Mhm.
Just while I got everybody, website's up to date. Facebook, I keep posting things every couple of days. YouTube channel, we'll have a little article in the April newsletter. I've summarized as we enter our 6th year and the amount of videos and the thousands of hours of view time. And, we've got some shows like Delpex coming up, and of course another, Lancaster show. So there's quite a bit of activity out there, and hopefully we'll get to see you out there too. So
And don't forget the big one up in Boston.
Oh yeah, there's something going on up in Boston. I heard maybe a once in a decade event. So if you can get up there, try to get up there. Yep.
I'm starting to make up my covers to get them serviced. I'm not going to
Excellent.
be able to go, but Dave Silcox said he'll go and wait online and get them canceled. And
Excellent.
they
Oh,
put
that's
out a
very
nice
nice.
bunch of Cinderellas, one for each year for 5 years. So yeah.
Perfect.
I'll be
Well,
looking
you know
forward
how
to that.
New York was a big hit. I have no doubt Boston's going to be just the same. So
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Anything else, folks? Announcements for the good of the